I just want to know. Madam Clerk, you ready to begin recording? So we'll call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Pittsboro Board of Commissioners for February 23rd, 2015, and begin with a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Earl, would you lead us in the pledge?
Would everyone rise for the pledge? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first order of business is to approve the consent agenda. I see we have 3 or 4 items on the consent agenda. The minutes from February 9. Approval of the Stormwater Administrative Manual. And authorization of the manager to begin negotiations with the Luton Company. And approval of the Christmas parade date. Are there any items that board members want to pull for discussion?
I'd like to pull item number 2, and we can throw that at the very end if we like.
Is the engineer here to discuss?
I haven't seen him yet.
Okay. So you want to put that under old business?
Sure. Let's do that.
Old number 2?
Number 2.
And let's see, the other one, is everybody's good with the Christmas parade? We've talked about that multiple times. Nobody wants to pull that. Okay, so the only change is we've moved item number 2, approval of the Stormwater Administrative Manual, to old business number 2. With that modification, do I hear a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, the consent agenda is adopted. We need a motion to approve the regular agenda as modified with the 1 addition.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none opposed, the agenda as modified is approved. And let's see here. Citizens Matters. Clerk's handed me a sheet with no names on it. Apparently have nobody signed up to speak in Citizens Matters, is that correct? Nobody here wants to sign up, okay. We'll move on to the regular agenda. First item of old business is a site plan review for Walker Auto Parts store.
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped over to public hearing. Public hearing on a rezoning request for the Branson rezone. Here, a motion to go into public hearing for that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in public hearing for rezoning request 2015-01. Mr. Gruesbeck, are you going to introduce this?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Mr. Bass sent us his apologies. He said basically the only time of year that he can get certification training would be at his annual conference, and it just happens to fall on the day tomorrow. This, I believe, has issues has come up for rezoning Brands from LLC for 97 acres east of town and 64. The rezoning request would take the property, if approved, R-A5 rural agricultural, R-A2 residential agricultural. Mr. Bass has included his staff memo. Planning board recommended approval of the item back on February 2nd.
Okay, we do have one person signed up to speak at the public hearing. And that is Mr. David Lasley. Please take the podium, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is David Lasley. I'm with Piedmont Land Design. We are representing the property owner, John Blair and Henlingen, and also the applicant, Branston, in the rezoning request for this particular property. It is 97 acres. It is just this side, it's off of Highway 64, just this side of Hall River. And the property is vacant, undeveloped at the time right now. It's currently zoned RA5, which are 5-acre lots. The proposed zoning that we're requesting is RA2. Some things that I'd like to point out in this request and some findings that need to be made are the relationship of this request to the town's land use plan and future land use map. One of the things that this does designate this particular area of the land use plan as very low residential neighborhood development. That is exactly what the request that we're making with the RA2 zoning district to accomplish that. One of the things that is important with the RA2 is that it's set up to support developments where the town is not able to bring water and sanitary sewer to the property. And because of that, it has to have on-site septic systems. What that does is that controls and limits the density of the development. In this particular case, what we do is the development is really restricted to what good suitable soils we have on site, and that really determines what the density is available on the property. As far as the population change, right now in going through just our preliminary evaluations, it looks like we might at best be able to yield 34 lots out of the property. That's a density that's just less than 3 units per acre. So it's not going to achieve the full ability of reaching the two units per acre, so, or two acre minimum lot size. So transportation patterns in dealing with the property, access is from 64 from the service road. We'll be extending that into the property, and that would be help begin and provide access also to other properties as the properties develop. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have, but that's really the request that's being made. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for that speaker or for the applicant? Is somebody else here representing the applicant?
Sure.
Okay. Do we have any questions for?
I've got one question, point of clarification. The application states that the requested zoning district is RA-2, and the explanation of the rezoning request states that the zoning request is RA-2 conditional zoning district. So is it truly to be RA2 straight zoning, or is there a conditional zoning to be associated with that request?
Straight, straight general use zoning,
Okay.
not conditional.
Any other questions for the speaker or the applicant? Okay, I have a question that probably for the staff. I'm sorry Mr. Bass isn't here to answer this, but my question is, perhaps the manager or the attorney can answer it. And I'm wondering if we've offered the applicant or the applicant's attorney the opportunity to write the planning board's opinion on this rezoning request, or an opportunity to write the ordinance that will come before the board in 2 weeks approving the rezoning, as we did for Chattel Park investors.
I know that the applicant has an attorney.
Well, was the applicant afforded that right?
The applicant chooses to offer one, I'm sure we consider it.
Can you state your question again?
Question was, have we offered the applicant or the applicant's attorney the opportunity to write the planning board's opinion on this application, or to write the ordinance approving the requested rezoning? I'm asking that because that was the process that we used for the recent approval of the Chattel Park investors rezoning. And my concern is, if we aren't offering them that opportunity, feels to me like we're trampling on their constitutional rights to equal protections under the law. If we have one set of rules for one applicant and another set of rules for others.
I'm a little confused now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Bill, I'm not sure I understand at this point. The planning board has a recommendation of approval.
Mr. Mayor, if it's necessary that we get a statement of consistency drawn up, we would be willing to have an attorney to prepare that, have that reviewed by the town attorney and presented to the commissioners for approval. Or we could have that, or you could grant the town attorney that right of being able to approve that after your approval this evening.
Typically, what happens is that the proposed documents that go before you are furnished to the applicant in advance of the meeting. If they have objections or they have input, they're certainly welcome to offer that. And we will certainly do the same here. Mr. Bass prepared the planning board agenda and materials. And I don't know whether he shared that with the applicant before.
We have not seen.
He did.
He did.
Yes, he
Yes.
did. He shared that with us.
Okay, well, if the applicant would like to have some input in the, when we have this come back to us in 2 weeks, I think he should be afforded that opportunity. And if he chooses to waive that opportunity, then he can certainly express that waiver of that opportunity to the manager or to the planning board, planning director.
Appreciate that opportunity.
I just have one question. I know areas that are zoned RA5, it's either can be because it's a transitional area or because it's environmentally sensitive. Have there been any, has this land been identified as having environmentally sensitive areas on it? And what, Stuart's not here to answer these questions, but
No,
I haven't seen anything on the map.
No, it has not, and one of the things that the two sides of this particular property are actually owned by property of the U.S. or of the state, excuse me. And they will remain, they are currently RA5, and since, let's see, yes, this property's right here. And so this property all around here is that area that is owned and currently zoned RA5. Just to give you an idea, at this closest point right here is approximately 1,000 feet. So that even is further away away as we get to some of these other areas. We see it as a great asset to the property and future property owners within the development to have those type of resources available and offered. But to answer your question,
So it's
no,
surrounded
not-
on-
It's not
On two sides
environmentally
by,
sensitive area.
it's surrounded on two sides by protected area.
That's correct.
Are there, the map that we have doesn't show rivers or creeks or, I mean, it shows creeks or anything on it. I'm just curious.
There's not,
No creeks at all?
there's a wet weather creek at the bottom of the property toward the service road, and it is truly a wet weather creek. That's all it is. You're welcome.
You mean like an
Welcome to
ephemeral,
walk out there.
like an ephemeral stream kind of thing, or?
I thought it had been identified as a stream.
They changed it. When they did their environmental review, they discovered that that was incorrect. They had
Who is
identified
they?
it with John's original plan in 2008, when it was approved in 2008 for this project as RA2. They did identify that, but they have discovered that that was incorrect.
And there will be a determination made.
That's correct, and that will occur during the subdivision process. There is a very small pocket of some wetlands right in this area. But again, all that development will be done in accordance with both federal, state, and local regulations.
So I think I understand you to say that you had a consultant on the property and they have determined.
That's correct, and we're in the process right now of getting that meeting set up with DWQ
Okay.
and the Corps, getting that confirmed. Okay.
Well, the Corps of Engineer land usually follows the river, and I'm curious why they chose to come up that piece there, that the little arm that comes up. Do you have any, is there some environmental reason why that particular arm?
This
Yes.
is just the property owner, it's the shape of the property. I think the property's been owned for,
75 years.
yes.
Oh, well, that's yesterday on the police station. Oh, no, there's probably, oh, yeah,
Is that,
Mayor, members of the board, I'm Glenn Futrell, Branston LLC. This property that they're talking about, the piece that wraps around it, is owned by the state of North Carolina. That's designated for parkland, and it's my understanding that this land was acquired by the state from Duke University years ago, and it will remain. And also, the other thing I want to point out, all the other properties surrounding this are currently designated RA2. And this is consistent. We had some conditions that we were willing to put forth, but Stuart wanted it to be a straight R2 zoning. And one of the conditions, we will do this irregardless. We're going to have a trail connection that will hook up to the state park line, the state parkland down on the eastern end of the property. There's a draw that goes through there, and it's our plan to have a greenway that will go down so that all the residents of this neighborhood can access the state parkland from the neighborhood. But it's owned by the state of North Carolina, and it will be parkland forever.
Thank you. And I have one last note for the staff here. When this comes back to us in 2 weeks with an ordinance recommending approval, or I assume we'll come back with 2 ordinances, if we're going to see again the term comprehensive plan or a reference to consistency with a town's comprehensive plan, before that happens, I'd like for the staff to prepare a memorandum to this board that outlines exactly what that means. We got a memorandum from the attorney citing the general statute that allows municipalities who don't have a formal comprehensive plan to use the term comprehensive plan to describe all of your stuff that relates to land use planning and zoning and whatnot. But it would be useful to me to know exactly what is that, so that before I offer an opinion about whether or not a particular rezoning action is consistent with the comprehensive plan, I'd like to know exactly what documents I'm expected to review with respect to making that consistency determination. And right now, I think, I'm not sure how the other board members feel, but I think we passed out five by 8 cards here and asked everybody to write down what documents are included and what are not included in the comprehensive plan. I suspect we get back 5 different answers. So I think that needs some clarification before we see another ordinance recommending approval of rezoning that includes the term that it's found to be consistent with a comprehensive plan. So if the manager can tackle that with the attorney, I would appreciate that. Are there any others who would like to speak to this rezoning as part of the public hearing? If not, do I hear a motion to go out of public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unopposed? We are out of public hearing. Thank you. Okay, now we're on to old business site plan review for the Walker Auto Parts store.
Good evening. On behalf of Stuart Bass, I'll present this. So the WAS Ventures LLC has applied for a site plan approval. This proposal is being presented to the board as a site plan for review and approval. The plans have been reviewed in accordance with the town's applicable development ordinances by the appropriate departments. The proposal is to construct a one-story commercial building totaling 6,750 square feet. It's immediately across the highway from here. Staff recommends approval of the proposed site plan. The Town Planning Board recommended approval at its regularly scheduled meeting on February the 2nd, 2015. So I'll do my best to entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board? Okay, while folks are thinking, I'll just make an observation. I've reviewed the plan and the staff notes. I didn't find anything in there that I have serious questions about, but I did note with curiosity there was a footnote up there that says that there's no need for a solid waste services spot for a dumpster or anything because the owners proposed to take all their trash and put it in their trucks and haul it back to Raleigh, which seems like a really difficult way to get rid of your trash, but if that's the way they want to do it, I don't know that I interpose any objections to that. It just seems with all the cardboard, if you got an auto parts store and you're unpacking boxes, this, that, and the other thing, and your solid waste removal plan is to take it home to Raleigh with you, just seemed a little bizarre, but
Take it to the right recycling center
yeah,
near them.
I don't know that that's something I would object to, other than just make the observation that it seems like an awful lot of more work than it needs to be to get rid of your recycling and trash.
Staff made the same observation before the planning board meeting, and their response, which was accepted, was this particular structure is not going to serve as your typical auto parts retail. It's mostly going to be for distribution, and they have another service where they serve UNC vehicles and other things. So it's going to be less retail, less sales, and more just material movement. So they'll have less trash, less recycled materials. That was their answer.
Yeah, and then looking at the parking lot, I mean, I think if they were to later find that wasn't working, I think the layout of the lot would, they could backfill a dumpster site somewhere down on the south end of it there. So I don't interpose any objection. I just thought it was a little strange way to get rid of your solid waste.
How long do you think it'll take them to reconstruct it? I think about traffic going in and out of food lane.
I think 6 to 8 months. depending on the weather.
Fred, what are their opportunities for stormwater management here?
Well, they're exempt from the stormwater ordinance manual, or ordinance, but what they are doing, and
Why is that?
they're less than 1/2 an acre disturbed.
Okay.
They're actually at .49, with about 364 square feet remaining. Well, they'll cover that other, but what they're doing is they're having a vegetated flow to the north into the DOT right-of-way. So all the runoff is going to go through a vegetated area, not only on their property, but once it gets into the culvert, it goes under the drive, it'll go about 300 feet in another vegetated swale before it enters the stream. So they'll have a lot of opportunity to drop total suspended solids, et cetera, along a vegetated swale, but they're not doing any on-site detention or treatment.
Have they gone through the nutrient calculations just to see what their threshold is? I mean, I know they're really, really tight on that disturbed area.
Yeah. They weren't required to, so they didn't.
So they don't.
So we looked at that pretty long and hard, and we also looked at the flooding problem in the driveway.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that everything's going to bypass that completely and not go out in the driveway, not flow off the site into the driveway to make that more of a problem.
So you're satisfied they can do this without exceeding the threshold?
I am. I'm gonna kind of hold the engineer to the line.
And what happens if you can't hold them to the line or something happens during construction?
Well, if it's during construction, that'll be an issue that Chatham County is going to work on with
Well, I'm thinking,
sediment runoff. If sediment exits the site, that kicks in the erosion, the state law of erosion and sediment trespass and all that business, which is in the erosion control ordinance. I mean, if it depends, the answer is really it depends on what they did and how bad it is. If it becomes a real issue, I'll address it. But it's hard for me to speculate what might happen out there.
right, okay.
Any other questions from the board on this request for a site plan approval? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the site plan as submitted?
I'll make a motion that we accept the site plan as approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None being opposed, the site plan as submitted is approved by the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to, let's see here, we revised our agenda to, so Fred, you might want to stay up here. We moved your stormwater plan to old business number 2 to accommodate a few questions. Okay. This is different from the one we got.
Yeah, I had an outstanding comment. Fred and I had some communication this afternoon, and the last time we had this before us, I had mentioned that I had some comments and I would put them in an email and send them out to everybody, and I did that, and Fred addressed all of those comments, but for one. And so we were following up that conversation today. And Fred, unfortunately, I've left my notes at home.
I have them right here.
Okay, good. So the issue is this document is supposed to provide clarity for the folks who are coming in trying to navigate the system. And I find a sentence in here that I think introduces confusion and the antithesis of clarity. And so I wanted to work on that, and the sentence in question is on page 6, and it's in the middle of the paragraph stormwater report guidelines. And it says that for projects where the applicant has concluded it is not feasible to meet the nutrient discharge limits, the stormwater report must also include a descriptive narrative and evidence supporting this position deemed acceptable to the stormwater administrator. And that language is there for one very specific reason, and it gives me the impression that this is generally required. Whereas in general, all that's required is the report and the spreadsheet. And it says it either meets the standards or it doesn't.
Right.
And so this language is in there specifically to deal with a situation where a developer is not using a device that is established by the state of North Carolina in the BMP manual that we've adopted as our design manual, and have gone outside of those items and said, I've got a better idea than anybody, and I've got to prove it to you. And so I almost want that language to be certain and clear that it's for special conditions, that this must be deemed acceptable to you. Because otherwise it's very objective and it either mathematically meets the standards or it doesn't. So I think if we were to add language that says for proprietary devices, then the sentence could go on. But I just don't want us to have a document where somebody reads the rules and then says, but this says I've got to do something these rules don't tell me I have to do. So that's my concern, and it's been my concern, you know, all along with the manual, is that we not regurgitate code, because when the code changes, we got to remember to marry up the two documents. So if we could make that clarification in this document, I'd be much more satisfied with its achieving the goal of adding clarity to the process. I don't know if you want to do it on the fly or not.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Well, first, I want to make sure that we're clear on what the purpose is of this section.
Yeah.
It describes going to chapter 4 of the of the manual.
Yeah.
And chapter 4 is basically a step-by-step guideline on how you select best management practices, and just to avoid sort of the cookie cutter approach where you always throw in a certain type of BMP, no matter what type of soil, what type of vegetation, what type of slope. It avoids that, so you don't see time and again the same BMPs in the same format every time, because it changes with regard to soil type, groundwater, and all these things. So the intent was to ensure that the engineer or the designer literally follows that guideline. And it may be proprietary or may not. But in the end, I want to read what they did. I want to be able to read in simple terms what process they went through to select the site BMPs, and if they still can't meet the nutrient loading at that point, when they follow that guideline. And I'm not trying to be prescriptive on what BMPs they use, as long as they show me they follow the guideline. And in the end, if they don't have the nitrogen numbers they need, then they can move on to offsets. So it could be proprietary, but it may not be as well. So perhaps, and the ordinance does say the stormwater administrator has the authority to accept the explanation.
Right.
And that's all I was trying to.
Right, but I think it is only very specific cases where it's outside of the BMPs. Because you do say up above that sufficient evidence following the Chapter 4 guidelines must be presented to you so that you're satisfied they went through the process of selecting the right BMP.
Correct.
And I think if that's the intent, that language is clear. But then it goes on to say that they've also got to write a report that satisfies you. But that's only for very specific
Right.
situation.
Where it's not feasible to meet the nutrient load.
No, I don't think where it's not feasible to meet the nutrient load. That's what I don't think it's saying. I think it's saying where they're choosing to use a device not identified in the BMP manual.
That's not what I agree with. Or that's not my intent. And I
But that's
guess,
what the ordinance says.
okay,
And you
I'm-
made reference today to the section,
right.
and I wish I had my notes with me.
It says, I'll read what you said. You said, this language suggests the standard to be achieved in order,
Okay.
is
That's
that,
not what I would read at this point to make my
Okay.
point.
okay,
I would read from the ordinance to the section you referred me to. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if somebody chooses a BMP and they meet the threshold for buy down, there's no need to justify anything else. There's no need to say, look, I choose not to do more. The ordinance doesn't make me do more. And I don't think we should introduce anything into the code or introduce something outside of code that
Right.
takes precedence over code. If we want to say that, you've got to meet something greater than our ordinance presently requires us to meet. Let's consider that and do that.
right. Would it possibly declare, to make this resolved, I could offer to, in the sentence after, descriptive narrative and evidence supporting this position, period, and just get rid of the
Well,
deemed.
I thought, yeah, I mean, that was my first recommendation where I thought that would be helpful.
I agree with that because it's kind of redundant because I have to approve the package anyway.
Okay.
That
I
would-
think that works, because
Okay.
that eliminates the confusion,
Yeah,
I think.
that'll do it.
Okay.
Other questions? I got just a couple here that are just to remove my ignorance here, I guess. On page 3, talks about upon completion of and prior to the town's issuance of a certificate of occupancy. I guess I'm a little confused about right now, we have all of our building inspections done by the county and they issue certificates of occupancy around building construction. Is this a different kind of certificate of occupancy?
No.
So,
I'm sorry, on page 3?
page 3, it's about the fourth line down, and it says, upon project completion and prior to the town's issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant is required to blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. So, I guess this is 2 questions. Is the town going to get into issuing those, or is the county still going to do it? And if the county is still going to do it, have we coordinated with them so that they know to hold off on? How are they going to know not to issue until you've done what you need to do? Is that,
That's an excellent question.
yeah,
Yeah, the county would issue these COs
okay.
as always.
But they need to hold off until they hear from you based on this.
That's right.
I don't know that they've bought into that yet, or been.
They essentially, it's kind of like with the fire department. We have to coordinate with them on
Okay.
COs, and so this would require a new link to their building inspection department as another
Yeah.
box for them to
That-
check.
That was my concern, that clearly there was if they're still issuing the certificates of occupancy and they're not made aware of this new stormwater requirement that checkbox needs to get checked before they issue, then we need to put some, I don't think it has to be written into this, but just procedurally, between you and the inspections office at the county, you need to sort out when they need to slow down and when they may proceed to issue that CO, so.
And I'll also double check the flow chart
Okay.
on that, because it should be in the flow chart as well.
Mr. Messick, would this be, would the trigger for CO be the zoning compliance certificate?
Zoning compliance is at the very beginning before you get the building permit. CO is, of course, at the end.
Yeah. So we've got a statement in our ordinance that says you'll get a zoning compliance certificate only after you provide as-bills consistent with the site plan.
No, it says you can get a certificate of occupancy after you provide the affidavit, not the certificate of zoning compliance. Zoning compliance says you want to build a building, it's properly zoned for that purpose. You want to go forward, you go get your building permit, finish the building, you get the CO.
CO lets you put it into service.
Right. I can buy it, use it.
And what is the mechanism that the town's presently using to communicate to the county about CO?
I shared Fred's question about that. I think this is a personal relationship.
Well, and in the past, it wasn't linked to stormwater, it was linked to the building code, and that was theirs to do, so
Yeah,
they didn't need to have this is a new, anyway, this is something new that
it's
needs
a new box that
needs to be
be
worked out, yeah.
But there have always been other issues that require the town's blessing
Yeah.
at the end. Maybe some kind of subdivision improvement, utility stuff, all those kinds of things you need, there needs to be a sign off that says that this has been built, the town's accepted it before you get your CO. So, the issues have existed, this is just another category.
Okay. So are we all comfortable that this does not need to be spelled out and written in here, that it's a administrative workout between the two offices?
It might be better to take the word town out, and just say prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, I suppose that's more technically correct.
There's, the same procedure needs to be clarified with the county on erosion control, because these sediment devices don't convert to stormwater devices exactly in the time frame when COs start coming through, or the requests for COs start coming through. As in single-family subdivisions, it happens all the time. So we'll have to work out an interim process, especially with the as-bills, because that should be, the as-bills after the stormwater device is complete, and it may be 2 years in some cases, like it's happening at Powell Place. There's still erosion control devices.
Okay. We can move on from that one. On page 5, just comparing this version to your prior version, right above the table of fee schedule, we added a sentence. Once it is deemed to be complete and acceptable, a permit will be issued immediately. So I was curious, that seems to be stating the obvious. What motivated you? It seems like you put handcuffs on yourself there. I mean, what motivated you to put that sentence in there? Seems to be redundant. I mean, once it's deemed to be complete and acceptable.
I guess I was just trying to be clear.
Yeah, I think you were talking about a two-step process where the site plan
Yeah.
approval doesn't actually provide the permit.
Right.
There's another process after site plan approval is obtained where then construction documents, if you will, are presented to Fred for his approval. So I think he was just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, I guess I could clear that up a little bit more so it's easily understood, because that's exactly right. Thanks for reminding me. The schedule is supposed to be described that you have to have site plan approval before you get a stormwater permit, but they're two different processes. That's,
Do you really need the word immediately in there? I mean, it seems to be,
no. That's a pretty,
it seems to be laying a burden on you that.
it's a pretty
you may get
powerful word
challenged
there, isn't
on
it? Immediate's a pretty powerful
A permit
word.
will be issued.
I'll put in ASAP.
There's nothing back there.
Right.
I don't know if you want to be held to that immediately.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, here's just a little, I tried to send you some stuff today and I missed one of the, just.
I got all the grammatical errors, thank you.
Yeah,
Grammar was excellent, it was punctuation.
and there, I think I missed one on page 6, or page 7, top of the line, says and exhibits.
Oh, thank you.
You just wanted to and exhibit for each type. Where that is. I meant to send you all those nitpicky ones in an email, sorry I missed that one. Okay,
This
that's
is
all I got.
this is the time to do this.
Yeah. And the CO thing was really the big thing I had. I wanted to make it clear that the county does that and that there needs to be some, staff level coordination to make sure that they don't shoot out that CO before you're really ready for them to. Okay.
I'll actually take this document over to Jenny,
Okay.
and we'll go through it and see what we can do for,
Other than that, well done. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Good piece of work. So, let's see here, what was the action we had on the consent agenda? Was it approval of this document?
Approval of the document. If you wanted, if I could just suggest maybe approve the document with suggested edits as discussed.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Is Mr. Fielker, is your?
Yep,
Okay.
we resolved it.
So, do I hear a motion to approve the Town of Pittsboro Stormwater Administrative Manual with minor edits discussed tonight?
Motion to approve with minor edits.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? That document is adopted.
Thank you very
Mr.
much
Engineer.
for your comments.
Thank you, friends.
Sure. Okay.